I've been meaning to address the tragedy that occurred in Staten Island where a man was killed by an illegal chokehold by the police. And in trying to formulate my thoughts on that issue, several weeks went by and I was actually behind the curb. And now we have another tragedy that happened out in Ferguson, Missouri. These are one of those issues that keep happening because the solution is the same old solution. And when I was going to address the first issue with Mr. Gardner, being applied with a legal chokehold by the police officer, I was going to tell you that it's going to be the same old story. What's going to happen, there's going to be outrage. There's going to be civil unrest where they're going to march and they're going to get hold of Al Sharpton to come out there and start marching. And these are problems that just keep happening because the solutions, there is no solution because the solutions that they're using, the methods that they're using are no longer viable. Marching makes no difference anymore. The politicians and the police officers and the powers that be don't give a shit. Their attitude is, where the hell else are you gonna go? We're all you got and you're stuck with us. But now, in this situation that happened in Ferguson, Missouri, it's a little different because those guys out there actually took to the streets. And they didn't wait for an organized protest march from Al Sharpton or Messy Jesse to just basically go out there and pacify them. They took it upon themselves to go out there and actually take matters into their own hands. And I even heard a lot of chants of kill the police from the crowds. But the other problem is it's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration built up, but it's unorganized. And unorganized frustration just leads to chaos. Now, what do? They go and they kick over garbage cans. That's how it started. It was supposed to be a peaceful protest. And then things got heated. And then what do? They tear up their own neighborhood. Now, they burn down all the stores or trash the stores, loot everything. This is your neighborhood. This is your neighborhood. After all the emotions and everything is over, and this young man is still dead at the hands of some rogue police officers, your neighborhood is trashed. And chances are that many of the businesses that you just destroyed in your neighborhood are not coming back. So then after you destroy everything in your neighborhood, now you say, well, we need some urban development after you done tore up the neighborhood you did have. See, now that's the part I don't understand. You're taking out your frustrations at the wrong people. Those businesses downtown aren't the one that killed that young man. It was a out of control police officer. Why is it that you'll pick up a gun to shoot another person who looks just like you in your own neighborhood and not think twice about it? In fact, I was looking at a video a few days ago of, I believe it was an argument between two guys over a rap video. And one guy just pulled out and emptied out 7 on somebody, and I believe that was his friend. Left him leaking and and he died right there on the floor. He got balls to do that. He's got the backbone to just kill another guy who looks just like him, who really didn't do much that really deserves to be killed over. But he didn't think twice about it. Now, why is it that when a tragedy like this happens, where a police officer clearly murdered a person in cold blood, how come you don't have that same strength and that animosity to actually attack the person who actually is responsible for your pain? Why is that? Because you've been conditioned to take your frustrations out, not on the person who's responsible, but the person who's closest to you, one who happens to be close by when you get pissed off, which would be your next door neighbor, the merchant across down the street. And these aren't the people who caused your pain. Now, I've always said that these incidences of police brutality are just going to get worse until the public starts handling the tragedies in a different way. And in a different way, I mean by this. I'm not advocating any type of violence towards the police because I know they're listening. And that's not what I'm advocating. But John F. Kennedy said that when you make peaceful protest impossible, you make violent protest inevitable. And that's what's going to happen one of these days. It's happening now as we speak, as it's unfolding down in Missouri. But more importantly than that, when it gets down to who is responsible for your pain, this is not going to stop until, again, like I said, it's handled differently by the public. Now, when you hear politicians or the law enforcement, and they have to go up against an issue, whether it be drugs, whether it be crime, whether it be prostitution, whether it be illiteracy, whether it be bad education, they always put it in terms of the good guys and the bad guys, and the good guys are over here, the ones with the badge, and the bad guys are the ones that we have to combat. And they always put it in the context of a war on drugs, war on crime, war on poverty, war on illiteracy. And when you put things into that context, war always has a clear enemy, and war always has a clear objective. And that enemy who's standing between you and your objective, that is the person you have to eliminate. That's how war works. So now when you hear them say they have a war on drugs, who do you think is going to be the enemy? Who do you think is going to be the casualty out of that war? It's not going to be them. And this is the funny thing. This is exactly one of the reasons why I'm completely against people who down the Second Amendment. Because put yourself in this situation right now. If these cops and their mentality and that overview or that outlook on the public, they view the public as enemies. If they're the only ones who have the power of lethal force, it's only a matter of time before you become a slave. Because if you can't fight back, if you have no way of defending yourself against them, you only have two choices at that point. You either can comply or die. That's it. You can't fight back because that's not an option. You're already ill-equipped at that point because you don't have what you need to fight back. Now, again, in any war, the only time that there's actually a truce is when both sides are suffering equal or greater casualties than the other side. And at that point you reach what you call an impasse, where neither side is getting any closer to their goal. And you have to put up the white flag and say, wait a minute, let's sit down and talk. While Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and all these other so-called black leaders who are just there to pacify you, while they're pacifying you, nothing's going to get done. Because some things can't be handled in a civil way. When you're being attacked in the street by a mob of 8 guys or whatever it is, there's no time for reasoning. You got to take up whatever it is you got and defend yourself at that moment. And then, hey, after you knock a couple of them out, maybe kill 1 or 2 of them, then now we can talk now, because now the immediate threat is over. This is a war. As far as they're concerned, this is a war. And they don't care. They're going to win it hook or crook. And all these politicians who end up get hold of these so-called black leaders to pacify you. This is the same method that they used after Amadou Diallo was killed. This is the same method they used after Abner Louima was sodomized by the police officer. This is the same method that they used after Doris Mann. This is the same method that they used after Sean Bell. And on and on and on and on. The examples are endless. And here we are in 2014, and they still doing it. You know why? Because they don't give a shit about the public, and they don't respect the public because they don't fear the public. No one has actually dealt with them on a street basis. As far as police are concerned, that's street justice that they're giving you. You mouth off to a cop. Forget about the judge. You're not going to see the judge because I'm going to fuck you up right here. You know why? Because I have the law and I have the badge on my side. And as far as I see it, whether you have the badge or the gun, or you have both, and the law, so-called the law, is on your side, and you yourself are breaking the law, I see you as a criminal hiding behind the law. And once most other people start seeing you as criminals, behaving as criminals under the cover of law, that's when it's all over, because they're going to give you some street justice. And this is when a couple of cops, and I'm not advocating again, but I'm just telling you that this is what's going to happen, and I already see it happening. It's spilling over. It's spilling over. The frustration of the constant disregard of black people's lives when it comes to these police officers. It's spilling over, and people are starting to say, well, wait a minute, marching is not working any longer. Voting is not working any longer. Nothing is, we're just going to retrain the police officers. They're rogue cops. These are cops, these are criminals that just happen to have a badge and the law on their side. That's what they are. And at some point, someone's going to get it. And they're going to realize that these are just fucking criminals who are actually acting criminally and hiding behind the law. And again, this is not for all police officers. Now, when you hear people say, well, not all police officers are bad. That's true. That's very true. But when the good cops don't out the bad cops who are ruining their reputation as a whole, you're an accessory to the crime, as far as I see it. And you deserve exactly what he gets, because you stood by and did nothing. And it's bringing your reputation down as a good cop. They have a unwritten, like an unspoken code amongst them. If a cop pulls somebody over and all of a sudden there's a confrontation, the cops don't even ask what happened. The other ones that come late on the scene, they don't even ask what happened. They just spring into action and start beating the hell out of somebody. Oh, he's one of ours, so we gotta protect him. And they start kicking and swinging. They don't even know what happened. They don't even know how the situation escalated. They don't even know what the facts are. But they just jump into it, defending their own. And eventually, the civilians are gonna have to protect their own and not depend on the police to do it. Now, one of these days, one of the tragic things that's going to happen is that the police officers are going to end up killing somebody. And this person is going to be the absolute wrong person that doesn't fit any criminal profile that you can think of. It's probably going to be a black kid, of course, or black or Hispanic. Right? And this person is going to be a model citizen, a model student, probably an only child, probably with a mother or father, single parent, who has invested their whole life into raising this child to be the best person that they can be, and to be a model citizen, and to be a contributor to society. And this is the person that they're going to end up probably killing with this police brutality. Okay? Then at that point, that parent has absolutely nothing to live for any longer. You've taken the very last thing that this person had to live for. And now they're going to take out their frustration right where they see it, right where it was caused, right at this particular officer who took their child away from them. And this person is not going to give a damn because he has nothing to lose. And that's the most dangerous person to deal with, is a person who has nothing to lose. You took away the last thing that they had, and now they lost it now. And this person is going to be the most dangerous person that the police department, and I don't mean it could be anywhere. It could be New York, could be New Jersey, could be Missouri, could be California, could be Florida. Who knows where it's going to be, but it's going to happen. The law of averages compels it that it's going to happen. And when this person has nothing else to live for, they're going to look back on Eric Gardner. They're going to look back on Sean Bell. They're going to look back on Abner Louima. They're going to look back on Doris Mann. They're going to look back at Amadou Diallo. They're going to look back at this recent tragedy that happened in Ferguson, Missouri. And they're going to say, well, fuck that. I'm not marching. I'm not doing any of that shit. Who's the guy who did it? That's the one I'm going after. And then now, at that point, that person becomes a vigilante. And they're going to demonize him in the public. You know, if you can even find him, because once that person goes into stealth mode, you make a mistake and kill the wrong person's kid. You can make a criminal out of anybody. You can make a killer out of anybody if you disrupt that person's life in such a way that it can't be repaired. Otherwise, he's going to see you as the cause of his pain. Now, when that happens, remember all these other incidences that I just mentioned. And when you're not getting any street justice, when you're not getting any justice from law enforcement, and then again, you're getting no justice from the courts. The only thing that's left is street justice. And unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. There was an incident where, first of all, you have to understand, when they don't even give a damn about their own kind, in Occupy Wall Street movement, those were all white, young kids, young, some of them middle class, some of them poor, but they were predominantly white, non-minorities who were out there. And look how the police treated them. So it's getting to the point now where the police don't give a damn whether you're black, you're white. They're the law, and they're going to bust heads as soon as they show up. They don't give a damn. So if they're going to treat them, their own, that way, you can only imagine what they're going to do to any black or Hispanic or any kind of minority who happens to mouth off or just piss them off one day and they just decide they're going to use you as a punching bag. This tragedy can be avoided when the court system fails you, when the legal system fails you, when the law enforcement fails you. You feel like the only choice you have is to lash out. But instead of lashing out at the guy next door or down to the tearing up a guy's store, you lash out where that lashing out needs to be. And unfortunately, it's going to get to that point one day, because these solutions aren't solutions. They're just band-aids to a large problem that will never find another solution unless there's really going to be some losses on both sides.